train will take me to Rainhill, along what is perhaps the most historic stretch of railway in the world. Not surprisingly, the Bradshaw guides were really keen on railway history. The Liverpool and Manchester line was really the first on which was attempted the practical application of locomotive power for the transit of goods and passengers, and it is therefore prominently entitled to rank as the pioneer of those stupendous undertakings which have not only given a new stimulus to the mechanical and architectural genius of the age, but have enabled this country to take the lead of all others in these respects. The Victorians were immensely proud of their railways and immensely proud of their country. They had good reason to be. Before the railway, it took some 36 hours to cover the 30 miles by canal. This line cut journey times down to just 2 hours, a revolution for intercity travel. As the line was being built, a highly innovative competition that would change the world took place about 9 miles outside Liverpool. This is Rainhill, and I've come to this little place because railway history was made here. Christian Woolmar is an expert on the Rainhill trials, the world's first steam locomotive race. Hey, Christian.
How do you do? Hi.
Nice to see you. Thank you very much. Why were there Rainhill trials?
Well, essentially, it was a very clever public relations exercise because they were building the Liverpool and Manchester Railway. They'd just about decided that they wanted locomotives rather than horses or stationary engines. So they decided to have a big launch of well, it was really a PR exercise, announcing several months in advance that there were going to be these trials for a locomotive in October 1829.
Set the scene for me. Were there bands and were there balloons and was there hullabaloo?
Oh, it was an absolutely huge event. There were people from Europe, from the United States. There was maybe 10, 15,000 onlookers, but also all these foreign visitors who had come to see, was this, the invention that was going to change the face of the world. And, they were proved right. It was an absolutely astonishing event in railway and indeed world history.
George Stephenson, chief engineer for the Liverpool to Manchester line, entered his steam locomotive, the Rocket. It won hands down, achieving a top speed of 29 miles per hour. The Rocket became the prototype for all future locomotives.
It was a one-iron horse race because the others blew up one by one. He got the £500 prize, probably worth about £20,000 these days, and crucially, the contract to build more locomotives for the Liverpool and Manchester.
You paint a really vivid scene, I wish I'd been there. Christian, my train is here.
Oh,
I better scoot.
Oh,
thanks so much.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Weston-super-Mare, perhaps above all other seaside resorts, grew rapidly thanks to the railway. In 1822, it had a population of just 735. By the end of the century, it had shot up to over 20,000. Clearly, they weren't put off by what Bradshaw had to say. Weston-super-Mare. My Bradshaw's guide is not entirely polite about Weston-super-Mare, so I'm intrigued to see what I'm going to find. Bradshaw writes that the receding of the tide leaves a disfiguring bank of mud along the beach, which is a great drawback to the enjoyment of bathing. It says about Weston-super-Mare, at low tide, Weston is disfigured by this bank of mud. What do you think of that?
I think it's right.
Do you think that is a bit disfiguring?
I mean, it's the stones and stuff.
Do you not like that so much?
It can look very dirty and polluted, but today it actually doesn't look that polluted, but sometimes, yeah, it does.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Are you visiting Weston-super-Mare or do you live here?
We live here.
I'm following a very old guidebook, it's 150 years old, and he makes what I think is a rather catty comment. He says the best reason to stay a long time in Weston-super-Mare is because of the attractive places around it. What do you think of that? Do you think that's a bit unfair?
Yeah, the actual Weston-super-Mare Central's lovely.
I thought you'd say that, you see.
Yeah.
And the other thing he says is that he thinks the the bank of mud that's left at low tide is disfiguring. Would you use that word?
No, it's a natural thing, surely.
Oh, it's a natural thing.
You can't have lovely Cornwall beaches everywhere, can you?
Yeah, and you're saying if it's a natural thing, then you shouldn't call it disfiguring.
No, of course not. It's part of Weston. Everybody knows that it's like that down here, but everybody still comes down here, don't they?
Wow, you really are loyal to your town. At least Bradshaw is more positive about one local attraction, Burnbeck Pier. He says, the bay sweeps a flat sandy beach to Whirl Hill, having beyond it the rock or island of Burnbeck, across which a new pier has been made with a landing stage for steamers. The pier was still bustling 50 years ago, but severe damage from storms in 1990 made it unsafe, and it was closed to the public in 1994. The only way to appreciate it is by water, so I've tagged along with the RNLI, who used to have a base on the pier. Nigel is one of 24 local volunteers. You've got an RNLI slipway there. You use that sometimes?
We don't anymore. That's that got condemned a while back, just sort of fitting into disrepair really. So we now operate on the north side using a new method with tractors and trailers launching on a shingle beach.
Does it make you sad to see it in this dilapidated condition?
It does, yeah. It's quite an old pier, and I just about remember it from when I was a wee lad. And to see it like it is now is devastating, really.
But my visit to the pier is cut short by a real emergency.
You have to get the guys back on here. They want number 2.
Thank you.
Swansea Coast Guard from Weston, lifeboat number 1.
There I was,
received proceeding.
Out in lifeboat number 1, and a call came through. Luckily we had lifeboat number 2 alongside us, but they had been called to an emergency. Somebody is drifting in a raft. It's quite a long distance job, so they've got to take the bigger craft, and luckily we had the smaller boat alongside. Hello.
Hi, Michael. How are you? Welcome aboard number 2.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you guys, thank you. With all that excitement, I'm glad to get my feet back on dry land. That was great, thank you very much indeed. Bye, thank you. This old pier may be very down on its luck today, but it was still a massive tourist attraction until the late 1950s. Pier archivist Stan Terrell remembers how popular it was and has traced its history back to Bradshaw's day. Stan, why do you think the Victorians were so crazy about piers?
The very fact that they so enjoyed going on boats, but with a pier, you could be on a boat, as it were, and you felt safe. You had the water underneath you. I think they loved that, being able to see. The other thing, of course, with piers, especially in their early days, was that it was somewhere where you could promenade. In other words, you could be seen and you could see others.
One of the reasons the pier was such a hit was that it was the nearest spot for Welsh people to get a drink on Sundays. Cardiff tourists would pour from the steamers into the bars on the first booze cruises. And paint a picture for me, at the height of the Victorian era, people arriving by steamers, what would it have been like down there on the pier?
Bags of excitement, I guess. As many as 13 steamers queuing up to discharge their passengers. When they would have eventually got on the island, enjoying themselves with all the amusements, the helter-skelter. I've heard it said town business people didn't like it really because, of course, all the business was coming into the old pier and very little of that came into the town.
Stan, one history of the pier is about pleasure and steamers. Another history of the pier is to do with warfare, is that right?
You're quite correct. In 1942, the Admiralty took this pier over. It became then known as HMS Burnbeck, and they staffed it with scientists. They developed the bouncing bomb, but it was only the theoretical work that was done in that instance.
I have to stop you there. You're telling me that the bouncing bomb was developed on a pier?
Yes, it was, yes. The idea apparently for choosing the pier to put their scientists on was that, first of all, you probably notice how secluded we are, away from prying eyes. And secondly, we have the third highest rise and fall of the tide in the world. So one of the objects was to develop weapons that they could fire into very deep water, and they wanted to be able to examine those explosives on low tide. So those are the two reasons it was chosen.
So actually, Birnbeck Pier has a rather important part in the history of World War II.
Oh yes, I say so, yes.
Richard Arkwright built several mills at Cromford, in which he developed the modern factory system. It was a new way of working that was soon copied all over Britain. The first was a water-powered cotton spinning mill. And this is it, the first factory in the world. Because before this, people in the cotton industry had done spinning and weaving in their own houses, the cottage industries. Now Arkwright brings it all together under one roof, powered by water in a factory. Quite incredible to think that 240 years ago, there were no factories. This is the beginning of industrialization right here. In his new factories, Arkwright could process huge quantities of cloth very quickly, and the River Derwent provided a cheap power supply. The village of Cromford is not what I expected. It's much prettier. It doesn't seem like the place that would be, the very heart of the Industrial Revolution. But now I think about it, Richard Arkwright, of course, established his mill here, partly because he needed the water, and partly because his family lived at the local castle, Willersley. And actually I can see an example of water power still operating, a water mill at the far end of this stretch of water. Arkwright's factory is now a museum, but nearby is the world's oldest factory still in use. It was set up in 1784 by Arkwright's finance director, Peter Nightingale, a relative of Florence Nightingale. His business partner was a Mr. John Smedley. Good morning, place. Oh. Very historic room by the look. Hello, I'm Michael Portillo.
Hello, very nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us today.
It's great to see you. Ian McLean is one of his descendants. The Smedley family has been producing knitwear here for over 2 centuries. I mean, this is incredibly historic, isn't it?
It is,
What's the date outside?
1784.
84.
Yes.
So you're just 13 years after Arkwright.
That's right. So Arkwright was the first mill to be built, and then there were 2 others, and we were the 4th. And now the others are long since out of business, and that makes us the oldest manufacturing business in the world. Of course, the factory's been added to so many times over the years that it makes it almost like a rabbit warren. It's quite difficult to find your way around sometimes.
Parliament's just the same. I was there 20 years, and I think by the end of it, I only knew about 1/10 of it. This looks pretty ancient through here.
Yes, I'll show you the original 1784 mill building, which is of course a little bit hidden within the structure of the factory.
I mean,
itself.
1784, that is incredible, isn't it?
That's right. I mean, that's right back at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution.
The railways weren't here in 1784. So
no, that's right.
So the railways weren't fundamental to the development of this business?
Firstly, the canals came first in 1776. And then the first railway came in 1831. And
to where? Where did that come to?
High Peak Junction at Cromford. I think it was integral, really, to the growth of the business.
The arrival of the railway in the 1830s transformed industry here. The High Peak line allowed local factories to transport goods all over the country.
So this is history and this is modernity here. So if we look in the historic part.
Do you mean literally you keep this as a museum? You don't
No, not at all. No. These are very much working machines which make the garments that we sell. What they do is they make individual pieces of the garments. So one machine will make the collar, another machine will make the front, and another machine will make the back, and then another machine will make the rib that goes around the arm. And then very skilled hand workers will then link by hand those pieces of the garment together.
But it really does look as though we are looking from one century to another.
That's right, yeah, absolutely. I mean, these machines through here are the very latest technology.
When the newest machines were introduced in 2006, it became possible to make garments in one whole piece. These seamless clothes are meant to be exceptionally comfortable.
I think what's important is that whenever a new technology comes along, we're one of the first people to use it.
And you're not tempted to go off and do it all in China?
Absolutely not. No. We see the value of manufacturing in England.
The quality of the clothing is in part thanks to being washed in local spring water. It's unusually soft in this area and gives the cotton a silky feel. So here, these are sweaters and tops and so on.
Yep.
But you're also famous for long johns.
That's right, yes.
It's said that this is where long johns were invented. Morning. How are you? Good morning. Named after Ian's ancestor, John Smedley. Is there a special feel to being in a family business?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's not just my family being the owners, but there are many generations of people who've worked in the factory for us.
Good morning.
Hello there.
Good morning. How are you all? Which one's Julie?
I am.
Julie, hello. I'm Michael. How do you do?
I am fine, thank you.
Have you been long in the business? Julie is one such employee whose family has made its living around this factory for 4 generations.
My grandma worked here, my sister worked here for a while, my daughter and my son, who does still actually work here as well.
Are there any other ladies who also have family going back like yours?
I don't know about the grandparents, but actually in this room alone we've got a mother and a daughter, we've got 3 sisters, and then we've got another set of 2 sisters. That's just in this room, so it is quite a family orientated business, definitely.
And what is it that you're actually doing?
My job is I actually put the back neck labels in, which is the John Smedley, made in England.
Made in England?
Made in England.
Does that make you proud?
Oh yes, that's what we like to see. Made in England.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. It's incredibly rare to find a business like this. Not only has the same family run the company for over 200 years, but the employees stay generation after generation. A family supported by one industry, decade after decade, is a way of life which has all but died out. Hello, gentlemen. I'm headed for Brighton. In 1844, the journey time from London was already just 90 minutes, and by 1865, it was down to 75, and that made long-distance commuting possible. And Bradshaw says merchants who formerly made Dulwich or Dalston the boundaries of their suburban residences now have got their mansions on the south coast and still get in less time by a less expensive conveyance to the counting houses in the city. Well, the train I'm on takes 53 minutes, which is not such a big change in 150 years. The age of commuting had dawned. Before my guide was published, Brighton was an aristocratic playground where the blue-blooded enjoyed the sea air or took the steamer to begin a European tour. The railway brought the coast within easy reach, and those enriched by industry and trade now occupied Brighton's elegant streets. As I came into Brighton, I was very struck by how far the town has extended. The houses sprawl across the neighbouring hills. And this station is vast. This is why Bradshaw refers to Brighton as a marine metropolis, because it was a royal town, an international port, then it became a seaside resort, then it became a commuting town, and it's a business centre in its own right. In the 1840s, the Victorian middle classes discovered Brighton and rushed to see it. The Brighton Pavilion, then a royal palace, was swamped with visitors, much to the disgust of Queen Victoria, who swiftly packed up and left town for good in 1845. Her Majesty may not have been amused by the day trippers and holiday makers pouring in by train, but Bradshaw was. scores of laughing, chubby, thoughtless children, skilled manifestly in the art of ingeniously tormenting maids, tutors, governesses and mammas. Whilst, intent upon their customary constitutional walk, the morning habitués of the promenade swing lustily past. Let us mingle with the throng and attain a closer intimacy of the principal features of this place. Well, the social hierarchy has changed, but people are still enjoying themselves here, and I'm going to go a-mingling. The seafront bustles still. I'm meeting historian Jeff Mead to help me imagine the attractions of Victorian Brighton. Hello.
Hi.
Michael Portillo.
Jeffrey Mead.
Now, my Bradshaw says that at one time the chain pier was the item of first consideration for the visitor, in other words, the highlight of Brighton. So what was it? What did it look like?
Well, it was basically a long suspension bridge that ran from here. Chains went through the wall here, and the chains ran out to a tower down on the beach here.
Stretching over 1,000 feet out to sea, this was Brighton's first pier. Constructed in 1823, it enabled the royal and rich to glide across the waves to their yachts and steamers.
And then there were 4 towers on timber supports with chains suspended from them, rods suspended from the chains, and the deck hung on the rods. And then it was secured to the timber underneath. And then there was a square stone-clad pierhead where people could promenade to.
By Bradshaw's time, piers such as the Chain Pier were no longer for the rich to board ships. They'd become a playground for the middle classes.
Once the railway arrives, it changes the social demographic of Brighton. And whereas before you needed your own transport to get here, you needed to be rich, once the railway comes in, it allows basically the world and his wife to come to Brighton. And so Brighton changes from being the resort literally of kings to being the working man's resort, 50 miles from London, easily accessible, and it changes the nature of the resort.
Bradshaw says something very interesting, very clever actually. He talks about the levelling of the railways literally and metaphorically. So you had to create flat ground for the railways, but you produced a levelling in society too.
Certainly it revolutionised the seaside, which had been exclusively for the very rich, down to the man in the street.
That pier, alas, is no longer here. But one of the other Victorian attractions survives intact, the aquarium, designed by Eugenius Birch. Before the railways, few people travelled to the coast. Many might never have seen a live fish. So the Brighton Aquarium opened up a submarine world that was entirely new.
This was designed in 1869, but it's such a colossal building project. It took 3 years to complete. So it opened in 1872 as the wonder of the age. It was the largest aquarium anywhere in the world.
And it felt like this, did it?
It felt like this, but it was the sense of awe, of shock and awe, that the Victorian public got coming in here, where they would see the denizens of the deep at close hand. And we have to think that today we're all very familiar with underwater photography. Many people have been down, skin divers. In the 1870s, no one has seen an octopus close to. No one has seen tropical fish. Even common British species that lived in deeper water would only have been seen in a fishmonger's shop.
Visitors could buy a train ticket from London that included entrance to the aquarium. At that time, prawns, lobsters and even salmon were star attractions, alongside more exotic displays of sea lions. Building the aquarium then, the Victorian seaside town reinvents itself.
All seaside towns have to constantly reinvent themselves. The introduction of piers, the introduction of things like aquaria. The cinema is basically a south coast of England technology. A whole raft of ideas coming in to, as you say, reinvent the seaside.
Brighton goes on and on. This railway is built on viaducts over arches, isn't it? And, you know, Bradshaw celebrates the fact that these arches soar above the houses. But it must have had a huge impact on London.
The viaducts sort of cut their way through the city. It was already a very densely inhabited place. And the viaduct was the solution to linking the railways in the inner city area, because if you had a sort of causeway that you had to cut, there'd be so much property that you'd need to acquire. So it was actually relatively cheap to build the viaducts in conjunction with also all the sort of station building along the line.
The trains travelling along these viaducts were part of an integrated transport system. Ships brought their cargo and passengers up the Thames to the docks to be whisked by train all around the country. Bradshaw was impressed by the sheer scale of the docks, writing, "Situated at the east end of London, they are the storehouses of the widest commerce of the world." We've come to West India Dock, now part of Canary Wharf, to understand what so captivated Bradshaw. My Bradshaw's Guide talks about this place in the 1860s. 204 acres of water, 600 ships can berth here with cargoes of 200 and 300 tons each. Must have been quite a scene.
It was an incredibly busy dock, ships coming from all over the world by the 1850s and 60s. So traditionally it was the West India trade, so carrying sugar and rum from the Caribbean, but by the mid-19th century goods were coming from all over the world.
Each of the docks specialised in particular cargoes. St Catherine's Dock took in marble, sugar and brandy, while the Surrey docks dealt in timber.
This was where all the cargoes of the world were being stored. This was London as the port of empire, incredibly active space. And where we're standing here, there would have been a transit shed. So the ships would moor, they'd unload their cargo into transit, and then they would be taken off into the warehouses.
As well as describing each dock, Bradshaw writes about the people too. A busy army of 20,000 workmen were employed here in loading, unloading and storing. He was talking about watermen, who rowed passengers ashore, and lightermen, who took cargo. There are no watermen left, but the descendants of some of the lightermen remain, men like Cornelius Andrews and his grandson. Do you remember the docks that were behind you?
I've had a boat in every dock. In the heyday, marvellous. Full up with ships and barges. Can you imagine? It was like Piccadilly Circus. It was fantastic.
Was there a lot of comradeship on the river?
Yeah, lovely. Especially in the pub.
Cornelius, I'm going to go out now with your grandson on the river.
Oh, you'll love him. He's a good kid.
Hello, James.
Hello, Michael.
Very good to see you. You're taking me on the river?
Yes, certainly are.
James Andrews has been a lighterman for 17 years and today hauls cargo with a tugboat rather than with oars. Now, the lightermen had a reputation for being the sort of aristocracy of the river. Is that true now?
Up until maybe the 90s, I think the London waterman or lighterman was well renowned. I know a long time ago Nelson himself insisted that every ship of the line had a London waterman on board.
I've been following a 19th century guidebook and it talks about 20,000 people working in the docks. Have you any idea how many people are working on the river?
I think at the last count there was between 400 and 500 licence holders. So obviously when you're coming down from 20,000 men, it's a big drop.
Although there aren't many lightermen on the river, they still play a vital role. Not least, removing London's refuse on barges. And today we're carrying rubbish. Where's it going to?
It is going ultimately to a place in Essex called Mucking.
Mucking?
Mucking, yeah, rather appropriately named. Would you like to have a little drive, Michael?
I'd love to. Left hand down a bit?
Left goes left and right goes right. It's not like tyres on the road, it's more like tyres on treacle.
It's definitely the longest vehicle I've ever steered, and it's all delayed reaction. You push the wheel and nothing seems to happen, and then after about 30 seconds a lot happens. Holding the wheel is one thing, but I think I'll leave parking this 80-foot convoy to the expert. That was the niftiest bit of steering I've ever seen. I think I might have to practice quite a long time before I could do that. This part of the river is no longer the busy thoroughfare it once was. In the 1970s, new docks were built further downstream to handle large container ships. These London docks lay unused for years, until they were transformed into a new financial district called Canary Wharf, housing the tallest building in Britain. John.
Hello, Michael.
Yeah, good to see you.
Welcome to Detherington Flax Mill.
Showing me around the mill is John Yates, Inspector of Historic Buildings for Shropshire. Forgive me, it doesn't look all that special. What is the point of it?
Well, it's special on the inside, as you'll see in a minute, but it's an actual first, the world's first iron-framed building. This is absolutely at the cutting edge of technology, the new technology of the time. An iron building, an experimental building, 200 feet long, 5 stories high, 40 feet wide. An astonishing act of confidence and bravado and virtuosity and skill.
Well, you've certainly whetted my appetite. How do we get into it? The owners of the site had just suffered a financial catastrophe. They'd lost thousands of pounds when one of their timber frame mills in Leeds had burned down.
Onwards and upwards.
Desperate to avoid more losses, they hired engineer Charles Bage to design a new mill in Shrewsbury. Bage knew that cast iron was being used to make rails at nearby Colebrook Dale, and he decided to make use of it in a building.
That's what it's all about. Isn't it wonderful?
So these supports, they're made of iron, are they?
They are. They're made of cast iron. Iron poured molten into a bed of sand that's been shaped to go to this lovely slender shape, just tapering out a little in the middle, just like the columns on the Parthenon.
Significantly, Charles Bage's iron frame was fireproof. When the railways arrived, it became easier to transport large pieces of iron and then steel around the country, and many other new buildings adopted the technology.
These columns all support iron beams that run right across the building from one side to another, and then the beams themselves support shallow brick vaults, just half a brick thick, that span from one beam to the other. And then to stop the vaults simply collapsing by pushing apart in the way that arches always do, there are wrought iron, even stronger iron, formed into bars that run the whole length of the building, all 200 foot of it. So this three-way metal frame, so up, across and along, is the grandfather of the skyscraper.
Really?
Yes.
The skyscraper was born in Shropshire.
The skyscraper is born right here. Shropshire may seem a sleepy place now, but in 1800 this was Silicon Valley. This was absolutely at the cutting edge of the technological and industrial revolution.
The use of a metal frame in place of wood enabled architects to design taller buildings and eventually led to the steel-framed skyscrapers of the 20th century. Yes, thank you very much. Very nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm very well, yourself?
Yeah, lovely day for travelling, isn't it?
Gorgeous.
We're going to visit the Iron Bridge.
Oh, it's very nice.
It's rather important for railwaymen to know about the Iron Bridge, isn't it? Because I mean, it's the precursor to all the engineering that made the railways possible.
Oh, it is, yeah. You know, and it's fantastic. I mean, the structure itself of the bridge is just for its time.
Yeah.
It's just, you can't imagine it that they would have been able to produce something as fantastic as that.
Our next call will be Telford Central next call.
I'm getting off at Telford and moving a few miles on to the village of Colebrook Dale to understand why the bridge creates such excitement. In Bradshaw's day, Colebrook Dale was already noted for its role in the development of the iron industry. Bradshaw writes, "Several important processes in the manufacture of iron have originated here. About 1768, iron rails were laid down on the tramways. In 1779, the first iron bridge was made. This still stands in substantial repair at a point where it crosses the Severn with a single arch." The Iron Bridge, as beautiful as it is historic, is a famous symbol of industrial progress. I've come to see John Challen, who works at the Iron Bridge Museum. John, hello.
Oh yeah, all right.
I must say I'm very excited to be on this bridge. It's wonderful. No, because I know its historic significance is enormous. And I mean, Colebrookdale obviously was well established as a place where iron was made. Bradshaw says that there was nowhere like it, that you know, for producing and mass producing artefacts in iron, this was the place.
It's where it all started. Abraham Darby came here to make iron, to make cooking pots, but the technology he bought, which was smelting iron with coke and casting iron into sand moulds, he did it in just the right place.
Until the 18th century, charcoal was used to smelt iron. Because it used so much wood, iron could be made only in small amounts. Then Abraham Darby substituted coke from the local coalfields, inventing a technique that's been used ever since. It meant that cast iron could be made cheaply and in huge quantities.
The company quickly went on from making cast iron cooking pots to the first iron wheels, the first iron cylinders for steam engines, and of course the bridge itself, and they even went on to build the world's first steam locomotive in 1802.
What gave them the confidence to make a bridge out of iron?
And they were pushing it, you know, they knew they could cast almost anything out of iron. You've got to make a mould and you can do it. And this was a real showpiece.
Is it true that Coalbrookdale makes some claim to having the first iron rails?
Yeah.
What year are they then?
1760s.
It's just so long before passenger railways, isn't it? These first cast iron rails, used for horse-drawn wagons in mines and quarries, were the forerunner to modern railways. And the techniques used in the iron bridge were copied for some of the earliest railway bridges. What strikes me about the bridge as a first iron bridge is how beautiful it is. In other words, that they not only got the engineering right first time, but they got the style, the aesthetics of it right first time. That's amazing.
Well, it is, and on the other hand, though, it shows how far they've got to be casting, because, you know, a stone bridge is a stone bridge. With an iron bridge, you had a lot more freedom in design. All those components were cast off-site to a design and then brought to site and assembled, and it's like a giant kit of parts.
If this technology hadn't been mastered, the whole history of railway building afterwards would have been completely different.
Before coke smelting, iron was a very expensive material. It was just used for fixings and nails and tools. To have so much iron that you can use it as a construction material was a completely different way. So you just think of the sheer tonnage of iron in a railway. You couldn't have done that without coke smelting.
The technology progressed rapidly. Rails made of cast iron were soon replaced by wrought iron, and by the 1860s, all railway tracks were made from steel. But the first iron bridge in the world still draws admiration. What do you think of your iron bridge?
I love it.
Yes. Do you still look at it ever?
Yes, I think when you live here, you do become a little bit jaded to how good it is. But when you actually sit down and look at it, it is amazing. There is something in the bridge which I don't know if you know about. Abraham Darby's face is in the bridge.
Really? Mm-hmm. Can I see it from here?
No, but I'll show it you.
Where would I have to go to see it?
Just down the bottom. It's amazing. You'll love it. You'll be amazed.
I have to go down the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm just going to show you this. You see the centre locking pin in the middle?
I do.
Now look at the one the other side. And you see there's a silhouette of a man's face.
Oh my goodness.
Is it architectural brilliance or pure fluke?
It certainly looks like a face.
Legend has it that Abraham Darby cast himself into the bridge.
That's beautiful. He writes, "In a green sheltered nook of the Conwy is a resort well known to anglers and artists. In the 19th century, Betws-y-Coed became popular with painters who came to capture nature in this beautiful location."
Peter, hello.
Hello, nice to see you.
I'm hoping art historian Peter Lord can explain why. Now, Bradshaw talks about Betws-y-Coed as being a resort that attracts artists, and that's been your great speciality. How did all that begin, the artists?
Well, it begins a long time before Bradshaw, actually, because, I mean, you're standing in one of the very early English tourist sites in Wales, or in Britain, to tell the truth.
In fact, Betws-y-Coed was the first artist colony in the country. It started with David Cox, who became one of the most distinguished landscape painters of his time.
Cox starts to come here for the summer and stays over all the summers between 1844 and 1856. And he brings with him his friends. Cox is the man. He's the big English painter. So anybody who wants to be anybody in the art world in London follows Cox here.
Cox's landscapes helped to publicise the glories of the area, like the dramatic Swallow Falls. This is very lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's really, well, obviously there's a lot more water here in the winter, and you get the foam
So this was the sort of place that attracted David Cox.
Absolutely, yes. One of the descriptions in the 1840s, 1850s of the place is that it looks like the encampment of an invading army because there are easels and white tents and every blooming rock has got an artist sitting on it. It was getting a bit crowded by then. So he would wander off, he would teach a bit, he would talk to other artists. He was a very sociable man and everybody liked him.
It's a fantastic scene that you paint. I mean, it's almost unimaginable to us now that, you know, the hills would be alive with artists.
The hills were alive with artists. That's a very good way of putting it. And of course, eventually, that becomes a tourist attraction in itself. You don't just come to Betws to see the scenery, you come to see the artists.
From the 1860s, when the railway line opened, artists and tourists descended on Betws-y-Coed in ever greater numbers, bringing wealth and fame to the village. So you brought me in now at the back of the railway station.
But you need to be looking that way.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
We've got the lovely medieval church, which is rather ironic because from this place, just a little bit further on, David Cox painted his very, very famous picture, The Welsh Funeral, painted in 1848. And that's one of the key events really in drawing people to Betws. And he painted it, or the view that he shows in the picture, was more or less the middle of the railway line, over there.
So the railway is driven through the scene that we see in the painting?
Absolutely. It is ironic because it's in part the fame of Cox's picture which drew people to Betws. They came on the train after 1868, the middle-class tourists started to come on the train. It's an extraordinary thing really, but I think it's a reflection of the times. I mean, the railway comes for good economic reasons. It's high Victorian capitalism, and the moans and groans of a few artists and spoiling the view aren't really going to make much difference.
The first hotel to accommodate the artists opened in 1768, and luckily for me, it's open still.
We're on our way to the Royal Oak because this is where David Cox and all the early tourists would have stayed. It's a lot more grand now than it was then, but I think you'll find it very comfortable. It's a lovely place to stay.
Cox came here often and painted a sign for the hotel, which now hangs in the foyer. It seems that in staying here, I follow a very distinguished guest list.
I've arranged for the old visitors book to be here so that you can see that as well.
Hello.
Hello.
Here we are.
There we go.
Right on cue.
Magnificent volume.
There you are. Now that's contemporary with your Bradshaw.
Yeah.
It's the 1860s. Now back here, with a bit of luck, I've marked it. There we can see the Loyal Incorporation of Artists at Betws-y-Coed. And here's a list of the artists in residence on October the 3rd, 1867. And down the bottom, you can see why they came.
They came for the booze.
They came for the booze.
To have a smoke. And to fish.
Fishing.
Yeah.
Fishing was a very big thing in Betws.
Bradshaw mentions angling here.
Yeah. So it was an all-round experience.
Fabulous.
And they're all here.
Fabulous. Bradshaw's says, Newcastle's situation on the banks of a navigable river and in the greatest coal district in the world are the chief causes which have tended to raise it to wealth and importance. In the 1860s, Tyneside dominated Britain's coal mining industry, supplying almost a third of London's fuel. The wealth generated by the collieries financed pioneering engineers working on what became the century's most important technology, the railways. In 1824, Robert Stephenson and his father George set up their locomotive works in central Newcastle. I'm meeting Dr. Michael Bailey to see what's left of their empire.
Good to meet you.
Wonderful to see you. I can't believe this place. Is this really the shrine of British railway engineering?
Well, I suppose it is really. This is the first purpose-built locomotive factory in the world. The railways were developed in this country, and we then exported our locomotives to Europe, to North America, and the whole railway revolution developed from that moment on.
It must have become a very big works indeed. Give me an idea of its size.
When it was completely developed later on in the 19th century, it occupied something like 6 acres, 2.5 hectares if you like, in modern speak. And there were about 1,200 employees, so that was a very large site.
I mean, look at this building, there's kind of very little trace of what it must have been like, and yet It's very moving, actually. I mean, for anyone who's interested in railways, this really is the cradle of it all, the place where it all begins.
Yes, it is. And I think the people of Newcastle are extremely proud of the fact that they have here right on their doorstep the very beginnings of the railway era.
At this site, the Stephensons designed some of the first successful locomotives. They developed all the elements of a modern railway, including setting the distance between the parallel rails, which became the world standard gauge. Why does this birth of railway technology happen in Newcastle, of all places?
It comes back to the coal, of course. The coal industry was so dominant in the 18th and then early 19th century that the competition between the different coal owners demanded better and better ways of moving the coal from the colliery sites to the shipping points for shipment to the southern England or export to Europe. And therefore, to enable you, to allow you to be competitive, you needed better railway technology to move the coal.
Father and son, George and Robert Stephenson, both started out as engineers in the coal industry, and by Bradshaw's day, they'd become household names. One of the striking things about George Stephenson is that he's a man of very humble origins, little education. Was he a man with rough edges?
Yes, he did have rough edges. He always had a bit of a chip on his shoulder, or some would say a forest on his shoulder, because he didn't have education, but he was self-taught. He taught himself to read and write, and that's obviously very commendable.
But Robert did have an education.
George Stephenson ensured his son Robert would have all the education that he did not have. When he left school, he could really have taken a position in any profession, but he chose to perpetuate his interest in engineering. By 1850, he had been responsible for something like a third of all the railways built in this country.
These two men hopping between mechanical engineering and civil engineering, building bridges, planning railway lines. I mean, this is the stuff of genius, isn't it?
Well, I think it is, isn't it? I mean, to be the engineers right at the beginning of the railway revolution, yes, it is. It is the stuff of genius.
I'm taking the metro because my Bradshaw's tells me that at South Shields may be seen in the church a model of Greathead's first lifeboat, invented and used in 1790. Now, presumably Victorians understood that reference, but it means nothing to me, and I'm intrigued to know what could have been so special about that lifeboat. I'm heading straight from the station to the church mentioned in my Bradshaw's guide. I'm hoping historian Ian Whitehead could help me find the model that it describes.
Hi, I'm Ian. Pleased to meet you, Michael.
Very nice to see you. I am looking for Greathead's lifeboat because it's mentioned in my Bradshaw's guide. Is it kind of readily visible?
It is readily visible.
Oh, wow. I didn't expect you to be there. That's absolutely fantastic.
We can get the boat down if you'd like. Tom?
I thought you just pressed a button or something.
No, unfortunately not.
The model that hangs from the ceiling represents what's claimed to be the first ever lifeboat, designed in response to the hazardous conditions of the North Sea.
The original boat was made because of loss of life, really, and a particular incident in 1789 where a ship ran aground and was over a period of 24 hours, everyone watched from the shore as the boat failed to get off the herd sand and then finally broke up and half the crew died.
The disaster was so shocking that a group of locals launched a competition to design a rescue craft. So who was Greathead, the man that Bradshaw attributes this boat to?
Well, Greathead was the man who claimed to be the inventor of the lifeboat. In the competition, there were two people who put in entries. One was from Greathead. The other entry was from William Woodhalf, who was in fact the parish clerk of this church. The committee didn't actually like either of the designs.
With no clear winner, Greathead was asked to build a lifeboat that combined the best ideas from both men. It was double-ended so that it could be rowed in either direction, with a cork lining for buoyancy. this isn't just about technology. This is really also about a way of thinking about human life, isn't it? I mean, this is a commitment to save life, which is perhaps a little bit of a novelty at the end of the 18th century.
It is. I think if you've got no way of saving life, then you have to be fatalistic, and you have to say, well, we couldn't have saved them anyway. But the development of the coal mining industry meant that people had money from the coal trade to think about building a boat like this, and so it was a world first for the northeast of England to have a lifeboat.
So the northeast can claim first in locomotives and in lifeboats.
Indeed.
Darlington in 15 minutes.
I'm now headed for a place that George Bradshaw would have found very exciting, towards the 22 miles of track that he says are memorable as being the first locomotive rail in England, and he might have added, or anywhere else in the world. Built between 1821 and 1825 by George Stephenson, I'm headed for the highly historic Darlington to Stockton Railway. Darlington is considered by many to be the home of the first modern freight railway ever built.
This is Darlington.
It is indeed remarkable to think, moving to think, that in the early 1820s, this was where George Stephenson laid the first iron tracks to take the coal from the collieries of Darlington down to the river at Stockton. Lots of people have laid tracks before, but what was to make this railway unique, a first, was that it wasn't horse-drawn, it wasn't driven by stationary engines. This railway was going to be powered by locomotives, by moving engines. Are you very aware of the history of this place?
I know quite a bit of it. I've spent many a year here. I'm in my 32nd year now. I've just started 1978 on the station.
The railways here go back even longer than you do, back to 1825.
I'm glad to do as well.
My 19th century Bradshaw's Guide says this is the first locomotive rail in England. But actually that's to understate it. It's the first locomotive rail in the world.
Maybe, but England always comes first, doesn't it?
That's a good way of putting it.
Okay.
Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
Close by is the resting place of some of the earliest engines, where I'm meeting railway expert Mark Allett. How did it come about that there was a railway between Stockton and Darlington?
It was the usual thing around that period. It was the need of industry, the growing industry for coal, and the canals weren't particularly fast at transporting things, and hence the decision was made to build a railway in its place.
Initially, it was thought horse-drawn vehicles would ply the new line, but engineer George Stephenson was convinced that steam was the future and devised a new engine called Locomotion No. 1.
Locomotion's one of the most important locomotives, the first one to haul passengers on a public railway back in 1825, so it really is the grandfather of all the railways that we've got today.
And what we're looking at here, is this a replica of Locomotion?
No, it's the real engine, and it's been preserved since 1841, so isn't it fascinating to think that even when that was only 16 years old, people had realised the important part that that engine had played in history.
It's in the most beautiful condition.
It really is, isn't it?
Am I allowed to?
I think you are, absolutely.
It's quite thrilling, actually. Although the new railway was designed for freight, it soon began to take passengers too, who were doubtless also thrilled, even though the first train took over 2 hours to travel just 12 miles. What was it like when they began to take passengers? Did they have carriages ready for them?
Well, not quite. I mean, what you'll see, and I'll show you if you want to come down this way, is actually that coal trucks like this were some of the vehicles that were carrying the first passengers. Some of them would have ridden on top to start with, and some of them would have been empty with people inside.
How quickly did things advance?
Really quickly. I mean, one of the things I think there's a good analogy is looking at how computers have really changed very, very quickly in the last few years, or how mobile phones have shrunk. So in only 10 years, you went from a really fragile locomotive like that, like Locomotion, through rocket, which had all the essential components of the end of steam, effectively, to locomotives like Derwent that were operating in collieries only 10 years later. Look at the size of it compared to
size and sophistication. From these small beginnings, the railways spread rapidly across Britain. By the time my Bradshaw's Guide was written in the 1860s, the country was linked by nearly 10,000 miles of track. It was a railway revolution, with the most deep-reaching industrial and social consequences. I'm getting off at Rotherhithe, where the new line follows the original Victorian route and takes advantage of one of the 19th century's most daring achievements. So it's London's newest railway service, but it passes through a tunnel familiar to Bradshaw. The tunnel from Wapping to Rotherhithe was commenced in 1825 and opened in 1843 by the projector and engineer Sir I.K. Brunel. Then he gives all its dimensions and he says it's a double archway brilliantly lighted with gas and open each day and night at a toll of 1 penny for each passenger. This tunnel wasn't built for a railway, it was built for pedestrians, and I'm going to take a walk through it. From 1 a.m, the line is closed, and I'm assured it will be safe to walk along it. I'm meeting Robert Hulse from the Brunel Museum, a keen admirer of this tunnel.
Hello.
Here we are in the middle of the night. We hope all the trains have stopped and we can go into the tunnel. It's quite a special tunnel, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's the first tunnel under a river anywhere in the world, and it's the first project that Isambard Kingdom Brunel worked on.
So, I mean, in a way, it's also the origins of underground railways.
Yes, this is an international landmark site because it's the birthplace of the tube, not just for London, but for everywhere.
This 365-metre tunnel was originally built as a fast way to transport cargo across the river. It was engineered by Mark Brunel and the work was supervised by his son, Isambard Kingdom Brunel. For the first time, they would bore beneath water at enormous risk and in appalling conditions. Was machinery used to build this in any way?
No, it's dug by hand. It's dug by men working in cages with short-handled spades, showered with Thames water. In 1825, when the Thames was the biggest open sewer in the world, it just really doesn't bear thinking about what was showering down on these poor unfortunates as they toiled under the river.
It took thousands of men working by oil lamp to construct the tunnel. Officially, 6 people were killed building it, but that doesn't include others who died from cholera and TB. It was a lethal enterprise.
It began just here. Now imagine this as a cage, 36 tiny cages, a row of 12 along the top.
Each one of those has a man in it?
Each one of those has a man in it.
And the method of building obviously had to be original, it had never been done before.
That's right. This is Mark Brunel's patented method, and modern tunnelling machines are based on this principle.
Men dug out the earth 4 inches at a time. Then the exposed flanks were quickly lined with bricks. But after 18 years, there was no money to build cargo ramps, so the tunnel was open to pedestrians instead, at the cost of 1 penny.
In the first 15 weeks, there were 1 million visitors, but that's only 1 million pennies. And the tunnel was conceived as a cargo tunnel that would have got tolls from the shipping agencies. So they have pennies. They're a huge success as a visitor attraction, but they have no revenue, so to speak. So they built the world's first underwater shopping arcade to try and make some money. And each of these little archways was a shop. And there's just room for you and a barrow and a table of souvenirs. They sold items like this. They sold Thames Tunnel gin flasks, Thames Tunnel pin cushions, Thames Tunnel snuff boxes, Thames Tunnel coffee cups. If they'd had baseball caps, they'd have sold those. People came here in the millions, but not everyone had the courage to walk under the river. And some people walked under the river very, very briskly and broke into a run about this point, which is halfway, where most people's resolve fails them.
I have some sympathy with that.
Sadly, what opened as a shining avenue of light under the River Thames to Wapping became, by degrees, a little less shiny and a little less respectable.
Oh.
Yes.
It became a bit seedy, did it?
It did. It became a haunt of thieves, cut purses and what the books demurely describe as women know better than they should be. In fact, there were all kinds of transactions conducted under the River Thames in these dark spaces.
And so at that point, it was ready to become a railway tunnel.
Yes, in 1865, they sold the tunnel to the railway.
The tunnel became part of the growing rail system and is now the centrepiece of London's newest train service. I still don't like touching that electric rail,
I think
even if it is off.
Healthy respect.
Yeah. In the early 19th century, my next stop was just a quiet fishing town until the railways arrived. As Bradshaw says, the opening of the South Eastern Railway and the establishment of a line of packets between this port and Boulogne has been the means of rescuing Folkestone from its previous obscurity. But the creation of this line, with those 4 long tunnels cut into the chalk, did more than transform Folkestone. It inspired a daring and ambitious project to dig a tunnel all the way to France. Hello, Paul.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm meeting countryside ranger Paul Holt to hear the story.
The very first real attempt was in 1880, just the other side of Abbots Cliff, and they sunk a vertical shaft down and cut parallel to the shore through the cliff but above the high water mark, and that worked very well. They're very pleased with the boring machine. Then in 1881 they actually moved all the workings to this, what was the Great Fall, that bit of land at the bottom of the cliff. Again, they sunk a vertical shaft down. They cut out towards the tip of the Admiralty Pier on the edge of Dover. So yeah, so 1881 was the next kind of big major attempt.
And building the tunnels must have been just a huge logistical problem. They must have massive teams of people here.
I would think so. The numbers must have been huge. I mean, if they were doing it by hand, I mean, there's no other way around than having lots of people working on it.
How far did these channel tunnellers get in 1882?
They got 897 yards, which is just over half a mile out. So pretty good, really.
Worry that the French might use the tunnel to invade caused the plans to be abandoned in the following year, 1882. So when was the next attempt to build a channel tunnel?
In the early 1970s, 70 to kind of 73, 74, they sunk an adit down and they cut out towards France, basically. So yeah, it was another hive of industrial activity on this little bit of cliff.
The second attempt had barely got a mile before it too was given up. It took 113 years, but that Victorian vision was finally realised in 1994 when the Channel Tunnel opened for business. The Channel Tunnel. When I was a junior minister, I helped put through the legislation that made it all possible. Very complicated, the engineering, the customs, the immigration, the passport control, the policing, the fire services, and here it is, it's all up and working. John Keith works for Eurotunnel. John?
Michael.
You're going to be my guide to this today. I came down here when it was being built, but I haven't been in the tunnel except as a passenger since. It's rather exciting for me.
Well, hopefully it's going to be very exciting, because instead of putting you on one of the trains and going through as most of the passengers do, we're going to take a car and actually drive into the Channel Tunnel.
Drive through. Sounds good. Before entering the tunnels, we must spend a few moments in a safety airlock.
This is the airlock that leads into the service tunnel. The reason it's there is because the service tunnel serves as sort of a safety lifeboat for the Channel Tunnel, and it means that we can manage evacuations from trains in complete safety and through clean air.
We're so used to thinking of the Channel Tunnel as a rail tunnel, it has never occurred to me that there is actually one little bit of it where you can drive from England to France.
Absolutely.
John's taking me far into the tunnel to see the traces of those first Victorian efforts. So where have we got to?
Well, this section here is the 1882 tunnel crossing the 1974 workings. So the 1974 workings actually follow the line of the current tunnel. But in 1882 they were digging test tunnels out towards Dover Harbour Wall from Samphire Hoe. And this is where the two tunnels intersect. So if you look up here on the wall, the segments actually still have the date clearly visible, 1974.
I had not realised that they'd made so much progress in 74.
They came a long way.
And so you've not had to replace this 1974 working?
No, this is as it was. We haven't touched it. It's a little piece of history inside the history that's the Channel Tunnel.
And if I were to remove these, a dangerous thing to do, I would be able to peer into the 1882 tunnel, would I?
Yes.
That's quite moving, actually, isn't it? Because we are in one of the engineering wonders of the world now, but 115 years before this tunnel opened, they've been down here digging with their Victorian technology.
Yeah. And they were right as well, because they were going through the layer of chalk that every successive attempt has been through.
Despite all the technological advances since those Victorian pioneers, it eventually took 8 years to complete the 30-mile stretch of tunnel to France. I should say, by the way, that I bear some of the scars of trying to get this legislation through Parliament. How do you think the people of Kent and the people of England have settled down now to the Channel Tunnel?
I think it's always interesting to look back at those reactions. The fact that the British didn't want it, to today's situation where 85 to 90% of our customers are British, from the southeast of England, from the Midlands, from as far north as Scotland, it is absolutely unique. It's massive, yet it's invisible, and it is, honestly, one of the wonders of our modern days.
A renaissance in rail.
We hope so.
The next day, I'm heading somewhere that requires a very early start. It's not yet 5 in the morning. I've walked through deserted streets of London, but I come across a place that's absolutely humming with activity and noise, because this is Smithfield Market, the meat market built around the time that Bradshaw's Guide was published, and looking to all intents and purposes like an Italianate Victorian railway station. Bradshaw's says of the new market, it's 631 feet long and 246 wide and covers 3.6 square acres. But what made Smithfield Market exceptional was the direct link from the building to the brand new Underground Railway. Morning, Alan. How are you?
Morning, sir. Yes.
Alan Elland is a traditional market trader. Have you worked here long?
On the market, 40 years.
40 years?
Believe it or not, yes. In the very, very early days, I wasn't actually working here, but where the car park is was a railway system, and the main transport was rail.
The underground station transformed the market. Before that, animals were slaughtered on site, and conditions were filthy. But with the trains, the meat could be slaughtered elsewhere and transported quickly to the city. The market cleaned up its act.
I used to come up as a little child and see it all, and you can't believe what it was like then. I mean, it was just so buzzing and lively. It's, so many people. Smithfield was the hub of the meat industry, there's no doubt there.
To a newcomer like me, it seems pretty buzzy anyway.
Yeah, well, it is, yeah, but in a different way, sort of thing.
I mean, how much has it changed? Because obviously it is a Victorian building and that's unchanged.
Dramatically, about 10 years ago, it was upgraded. This part's the same, but the shop's interior has dramatically changed 10 years ago. Everything was open, and now, well, you'll find out this is all refrigerated.
But the basic process, I guess, is the same. Meat is coming from all over Britain, is it?
Yeah. Yes.
And people are coming here bright and early to buy it.
Yes. Yeah. The idea is the same. Yeah. We get the meat, cut it, process it, comes in, goes out.
There's another thing I'm guessing hasn't changed since Bradshaw's day. Morning. There's barely a woman in sight, so I've had to look hard to find these two. Good morning. Good morning. You're up bright and early. You don't look like professional meat buyers. Are you buying for yourselves?
Yes.
And why have you come down so early to buy meat at Smithfield?
She's having a party.
Hey, I can see your bags on the floor here. You're really going for it, aren't you? What time did you have to get up?
I got up at 3:30 because we live in Thames. Yeah.
10.
Yeah.
Wow. Eventually, I find a woman who actually works here. Good morning.
Morning.
I can see you're the money lady.
Yes.
What time do you have to get up in the morning?
I get up about 1:20 and I get home about 10 o'clock in the morning.
It's just so nice to see a lady's face in the market because there aren't so many, are there?
No, it's very male orientated.
Why do you think that is? I mean, by now we have lady train drivers, bus drivers, taxi drivers. Why not work in the meat market?
I think it's always been male and it's always going to be. I think it's a strength thing as well. They think that you probably can't lift up the boxes because they're quite heavy.
Do they behave nicely with you? Watch their P's and Q's?
Sometimes, not always, no. If you were single, you'd have a good time.
Well, I confess that when I finish work, it's quite nice to go somewhere and have a drink. And just because you begin work at 2 or 3 in the morning, no reason why it should be different. And so here, for Smithfield, there are special licensing laws to allow people to have a tipple when they knock off work at 6 a.m.
That's early.
When the long night's work is done, the market traders come to the Cock Tavern, which has been here for around 150 years. Thank you very much. Oh, that looks lovely. Thank you. Are you the famous Carmen?
I am. I don't know about famous, but I'm Carmen.
Have you got time to sit down? Carmen Leslie is a chef at the pub and works from before dawn feeding hungry market traders. How long have you worked here?
I would say 43 years.
43 years. That's a very long time in one pub.
Yeah, but you see, it's a famous pub.
So at one time I wouldn't have been allowed to come in here because I wasn't part of the market.
No, nobody. Well, you are different, so they probably let you in because Prince Charles was here, the Queen Mother was here. Quite a few famous people, actually.
You brought me a very, very nice breakfast. Do you think this all comes from the market one way or another?
They're all from the market.
Really?
Everything, even the eggs.
Even the eggs?
Even the eggs. The hens weren't laid here, didn't lay the eggs here. But it comes from the market, everything.
I don't normally have a pint at this time of the morning, but I'm kind of thinking, well, you know, it's like I didn't go to bed. I've been partying all night, you know.
Have you?
No.